Welcome, everybody. This is Sherry Bowers with Connected Spirit, Connected Biz Spotlight series for the new year. And today I have with me Ellen Shapiro, and I love having you on. We've talked before, and it's fun to talk again. So, for those people that are watching that aren't familiar with you and what you do, tell us a little bit about how you got started in your work because you've got an interesting story.
Yeah, well, I was living probably a pretty conventional life, working as an accountant in my late 20s in New York City and doing the middle class professional thing. And for some reason, my situation, I worked for the toughest man in the tax department at this big accounting firm. He was working for him was Marine boot camp. He was an ex-Marine and he
Yeah, yeah.
hazed people. So I was being the good soldier and just worked an insane amount of hours, just like insane. I
Yeah.
mean, it was like basically double the normal workload for 3 months. And I earned so much comp time that I had 3 months of paid vacation time after that. But that just shows you it was
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
And I needed it because I was a wreck and I
Yeah.
really needed healing. And I went off to a place called Kripalu, which some people may have heard of. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful yoga center in the Berkshires. And I was in bad shape. I was in my late 20s. I'd been pretty healthy, but I just had worked so many hours. And so I just said, do you have any massages? Well, we don't, but go try this energy healing thing. I didn't know what any of it was. And I went into this room and it felt like nothing. I mean, I laid down and she didn't touch me really. She just later like held my space and said a few words. And all of a sudden, this wave of fear and stress, like it literally felt like a wave that moved through my body and left. And I was just like, what was that? Whatever it is, I want more
I,
of it.
yeah, yeah.
That was,
I would like more of that, please.
yeah. So I started studying what it was something called polarity therapy. So I started out
Oh,
studying energy work as and this is like the late 80s. So it was pretty unknown back then.
yeah, yeah,
People sort of knew what Reiki was, but they didn't know much about energy stuff. And I kept studying it, and while I was working as an accountant, and then finally there were just some unmistakable messages that were like, you've got to leave here or your soul's going to die. And so I went on to become a healer. And it was a huge, I mean, changing work, but also changing from being employed,
yep.
by somebody else to my own business. And everybody knows what an accountant does, but
Nobody
energy.
knows. I mean, yeah,
So it
yeah,
was it was about as big a contrast as you could have. And I quickly learned that I didn't really, even though I have an MBA, I didn't really know much about this kind of business.
yeah,
So it was a long journey of learning how to do it. And now there's so much more marketing information. Back then there wasn't as much about this kind of thing.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
kind of like for my own survival, I learned a lot about business stuff, and I also learned a lot about the money issues that people have. And
yeah,
so, yeah, that's been
yeah.
my path is like I have an issue and I learn the tools to deal with it, and then surprise, I can help other people with it.
And that's so important. I think being an entrepreneur, especially, I think it really boils down to like 80% of that is mindset and all the things that go on in our heads versus our skills and our talents and that I mean
Yeah,
that piece is important, but if you can't manage that mindset, then you just it makes it lots harder.
right.
Um, so
Exactly.
so at this point, like who do you mainly work with? Do you have like a certain demographic that you're more focused on working with or
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
specific area?
definitely work with women. I mean, I have worked with men, but I'm just really familiar with the psychology of women.
Yeah,
Maybe 98% of my clients have been women, and
yeah,
the particular we all can struggle with mindset, and men have their own stuff
Yeah.
about it. But for women, there's a lot of this like sort of lack of confidence, second guessing ourselves, always thinking like rather than like maybe there's something, a skill I don't have, or there's something about business I don't understand. We tend to personalize it and say, it must be me, I'm no good at this.
Yeah.
And especially money, finance, math, you know.
Yep. So true.
So yeah. So that's mainly women and mostly entrepreneurs. I also work with supporting women in making changes in their lives. I've done some pretty radical reinventions myself and have a lot of compassion and experience and ways to support people in that. And so many people
Yeah.
now are in that place.
Oh, it's but for real. For
Yeah.
real. So so tell us a little bit about your services at this point. What are you mainly offering? Because it sounds like there's a whole bunch of things that you can help people with, but is there,
Yeah.
you spoke about money for sure and
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, that's one area where I combine my energy healing work with coaching and a whole bunch of things that I combine, along with practical common sense things. Sometimes if somebody's really in that, it's me, it's me, it's me, it's like, wait a minute, do you have a business model that works? Like, do you have a clear way of talking about your work? If you don't, doesn't matter how talented you are or
Yeah. Yeah.
so it varies. That's kind of, I consider that more like business mentoring and coaching. I've also been doing these are more large group energy healing processes. Sometimes it's like on a call like this, sometimes by distance, which people also like because it's like, the magician is sort of behind the
Yeah.
scene,
Yeah. You just do your
shifting
thing
my
and
energy. Right. Yeah. So those are the main things that I'm offering these days.
awesome. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your gift because you have a wonderful gift you're offering that anybody watching can get for free. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, thank you. Well, I was thinking, new year, fresh start, and there's all this like stuff about like you turn the calendar page and like you're miraculously going to have a fresh start. It's kind of weird. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like I get it, it's the end of a year and all of that, but like inside yourself, it's really January 1st is the next day.
Yeah.
And if you don't do something to kind of like come to completion, look back at where you've been, what have you learned, what would you like to do differently? If you're still holding on to that, January 1st is going to be pretty much like December 31st, except maybe you're going to have a hangover if you drink.
Right? I know. And 2 weeks later, same old thing. And 2 weeks later, it's the same old thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that saying, right, about like, I don't know what the date is, sometime in January when people have already given up on their resolutions or you
Yeah.
know so
Yeah.
this is financial forgiveness. It's a workbook. It takes people through a process. It's kind of like having a session with me, only you're doing it on your own,
Uh-huh.
and there's an audio that goes with it. But the idea is like, and it may not just be like last month, but we may have like some old story or an experience or bankruptcy, or sometimes people have, huge issues with a divorce, or that have like a money piece to them,
Mhm. Yeah.
or maybe just even the thing of like you look at your financial situation, you're like, God, I wish I was further ahead, or
Yeah.
wherever it is that we can't, like, we're holding blame against ourselves or judgment, or it's like kind of hurting yourself every time you have that thought, and it also demotivates you from doing anything because you can go, oh well, maybe it'll just be the same story again next time, or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
we tell ourselves about it. So that's what this is designed. It was like the idea of like, let's have a real fresh start, not just turn the page of the calendar.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And I would say, I mean, that I don't think there's a person on this planet that doesn't have some of that going on somewhere. Like we've all got some money issue somewhere. I would,
right.
well, that's what I believe anyway. There's always something that,
Pretty much. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
I should have, or
Right.
yeah.
I mean,
So,
even people who have money
oh
have
yeah.
money issues and they can have guilt about it or whatever,
Yep.
you know. So, yeah.
Well,
It's just a thorny area. So,
yep.
yeah.
Well, that just sounds absolutely wonderful. Anything else you want to share about like new programs you've got coming up or anything that you're going to be doing past the
Well, I'm
first of
going
the
to
year?
be, yeah, well, I'm going to be doing a monthly group repatterning session. That's one of my modalities. It's called resonance repatterning, and it works really well in a group. And it's a way for people to experience the work. It's going to be, just like a low cost kind of open group. That's one thing I want to do to just invite people into the work more because I can explain what it's based on till the cows come home, but once people have an experience, they're like, oh, wow, I know something shifted here. I really like that. And they can't even when clients want to refer people, they're like, I don't know how to explain what you do. I said,
Yeah.
don't even try. Just,
Yeah.
invite
Yeah.
people to something to experience it. So I'm excited about that. And I would like to get a group coaching program going this year, which I've been thinking about and talking about and taking people part of like a small group. Not, I don't want to do, for that, I
Yeah.
want to do more in depth. And there's also like the whole money area. So people have a lot of shame about it. And it's, still, even though people will talk a lot more freely probably about their sex lives, even than their money,
Yeah.
like there's all this like hidden. So that's where shame grows in that kind of taboo atmosphere. And I found over the years, whenever people get together, there's just like, oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And there's some kind of like freedom that you get from that. You realize, because a lot of this money stuff, yes, it can come from your parents and from your like ethnic history and all that, but there's just a lot of it is like our programming from
Yeah.
our lives, and it's not personal. It's not like, like, okay, I didn't get any financial education and now I feel like very unconfident around money. Well, because nobody taught you, and then now you're grown up and somehow you're just supposed to know.
Right. Exactly.
Like, here's a car. I'm not going to teach you how to drive it, but I expect you to be like a very safe driver and stay on the road and
Yep. And never have an accident, never have an oopsie. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Wonderful. Wonderful.
yeah.
So if somebody wants to, what's the best way for somebody to reach out to you if they're interested in tapping into to your services and things that you've got going on? Do you prefer like
Well, they
your
can,
website or
yeah, they
yeah.
can come to my website. There's a freebie there. They can sign up for my email list. And they can contact me directly. I think I sent you my email address.
Mhm.
So it's Hearts Abode, which is pretty easy to remember at gmail.com, but I'm sure you'll put it in the written
Yep.
materials.
And
So
what was the website URL again? Just so that people
it's
can
my name.
find them.
It's ellenannshapiro.com. And it's
Perfect.
Ann with an E.
Thank you for that because there's so many variations of that one. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for spending the time with me to chat a little bit and share what you do and what a little bit of your background. It was a pleasure. And anybody watching the video, you definitely need to get her gift. The link will be below. So take her up on it. Can't beat it. It's free and could make a
Yeah.
huge difference. So thanks again, and we will see everybody on the next spotlight.
Very
Thanks.
good. Thank you,
Bye.
Sherry. Happy holidays to all. Yeah.